So here you can see my button custom.xml file. Now you'll notice I put it in res drawable and I just called it button custom.xml. On it I have my selector, and my selector uses the standard Android naming scheme. And within my selector I then have 4 items. These items are for the sign in pressed where state pressed is true, sign in focus drawable when state focused is true, sign in disabled drawable when state enabled is false, and then just the normal drawable for everything else. It's good practice to put your normal drawable at the bottom of the list. So remember, state pressed is true will give you your sign in press graphic. State focused is true will give you your sign in focus. The slightly different one is when it's disabled and you want that ghosted image that we saw earlier on, and that's for state enabled equals false. There's no state disabled equals true. Just watch out for that one. And then of course, like I said, your normal one is last. Now let's take a look at how that changes my button definition within my main activity. So here's my activity main layout, and you can see the button here. First of all, notice that I've just changed my button from being the sign in button to just a standard button. So then on the standard button, if you look at the background setting, I've set it to drawable button custom. So that's telling the system to use button custom.xml. If you had named your XML file something else, just make sure that you use the drawable here. I've also made a couple of other changes. Buttons in Android always default so that their text is all in capitals, but we wanted to have the sign in with capital S, capital I, so I change it so that text all caps is false, and then my Android text sign in will work properly. I get capital S, capital I. You could also take that text and load it into a string resource, but I've just hard-coded it here just for brevity. You can also take that string and load it into a string resource, but I've just left it in here for brevity. Finally, because we've changed our sign-in button to a button so that we can customize it, we have to refactor our code a little bit. So let's go and take a look at the changes on the main activity. It's pretty straightforward. Earlier I had a sign-in button called mSignIn button. I'm just changing that to be a button. And then when I'm creating the click handler, I just cast the find view by ID sign-in button to a button instead of a sign-in button. And then nothing else changes. Let's take a look at what the app would look like now with a nice Google sign-in button instead of the red branded button that we saw earlier. And here you can see the same app. I've just laid out the buttons differently. I laid them out vertically instead of horizontally. But now you can see I have this sign in button instead of the red Google Plus sign in button. And when I touch that, I sign in as before. And you can see I'm signed into my app and I still have the sign out and revoke access buttons similar to what we had earlier on. So that's just what the new customized sign-in button looks like, and that's more in line with the web sign-in, etc., etc., and it adheres to the sign-in guidelines that we saw in the earlier video.